The rain came down in sheets, turning the quiet neighborhood into a blur of slick streets and flickering porch lights. Emily wrapped her cardigan tighter around herself, the sound of thunder rattling the windowpanes as she sipped her lukewarm tea. The day had been long, endless spreadsheets, ignored emails, and a manager who barely remembered her name. All she wanted was silence and sleep. But then came a knock. Sharp. Urgent. Unmistakable. She froze, mug halfway to her lips. It was nearly 10 p.m. Who would be out in this weather? Heart pounding, she approached the door and peeked through the peephole. A man stood there, soaked to the bone, holding the hand of a little girl no older than 5. Her pink jacket was drenched, her small face pale and shivering. Emily hesitated. Every cautious thought screamed, "Don't open it." But then the little girl sneezed, and something in Emily's heart shifted. She cracked the door open. "Can I help you?" The man looked up, his voice low but desperate. "I'm sorry. Our car broke down just down the street. The motels are full, there's a convention or something. I didn't know where else to go." Emily looked from him to the child again. Her lips were blue. Without another word, she stepped aside. "Come in." They entered gratefully, dripping water onto the hardwood floor. Emily grabbed towels, her mind racing. She didn't know who they were. But right now, they needed warmth, and that was something she could give. As she knelt to dry the little girl's hands, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that this moment, this choice, mattered more than she understood. Emily rummaged through her linen closet, pulling out a soft quilt and a set of dry clothes, an old hoodie and pajama pants from her younger brother's last visit. In the living room, the man and his daughter sat quietly by the space heater, steam rising from their soaked clothes. "Here," she said gently, handing the bundle to him. "Bathrooms down the hall." "Thank you," he said, his voice rich but weary. "I'm Daniel. And this is Sophie." Sophie looked up from where she was curled on the couch, her wide eyes sleepy. "Hi," she whispered. Emily smiled. "Hi, sweetheart." As Daniel changed, Emily busied herself in the kitchen. She didn't have much, just some bread, cheese, and a can of tomato soup. But soon, the smell of grilled cheese sandwiches filled the air, mingling with the sound of the storm. It felt oddly comforting. When Daniel returned, dry and grateful, they sat across from each other with warm mugs and simple food. Sophie was already drifting off in a nest of blankets. "I hope it's okay," Emily said, "I don't usually invite strangers into my home." Daniel gave a soft chuckle. "I don't usually knock on strangers' doors. But I didn't know what else to do. Thank you for trusting me." She looked down, stirred her soup. "You looked like you needed someone." They talked for a while, quietly, gently. Emily shared about her job in HR, how she often felt overlooked and replaceable. "Sometimes I wonder if anyone at that company even knows I exist," she said, laughing bitterly. Daniel listened without judgment, his expression unreadable but kind. As the clock ticked past midnight, Emily stood and began to clean up. She didn't know his story. But tonight, none of that mattered. They were just two strangers, sharing warmth, food, and the quiet dignity of human compassion. Morning came softly, with golden sunlight pushing through the curtains and illuminating the small living room. The storm had passed, leaving behind puddles and the sweet smell of wet earth. The only sound in the house was the faint ticking of the wall clock. Emily stirred in her bed, the memory of the strange but comforting night flickering behind her sleepy eyes. She stretched and smiled faintly, already planning to make pancakes for her unexpected guests. But when she stepped into the living room, it was empty. The couch was neatly folded back into place. The blanket was folded, the borrowed clothes stacked beside it. Sophie's tiny socks were gone, as were the mugs from the night before. A quiet stillness hung in the air, so different from the warmth they had shared just hours ago. On the coffee table, a napkin sat beside a vase of dried flowers. Written in careful handwriting were just a few words: "Thank you for your kindness. It meant more than you know." Emily stared at it, heart sinking slightly with a strange sense of loss. She hadn't expected him to leave so soon, or at all without a goodbye. She picked up the napkin, running her thumb across the ink. It was such a small thing, but there was something genuine in it, something weighty. She sat down where Sophie had curled up the night before and let the quiet settle around her. He hadn't left a phone number. No last name. Just a simple thank you. And yet, something told her that this wasn't the end. Not of the night. Not of the story. She didn't know how, but she had a strange feeling. Her small act of kindness had rippled further than she could imagine. The company auditorium buzzed with anticipation. Whispers swirled among the crowd, rumors of a new CEO arriving that day. Emily walked in late, clutching a folder and trying to avoid attention. She hadn't had time to grab coffee, and her nerves were already fried from deadlines and the general feeling of being invisible. She slid into a seat in the back just as the lights dimmed and the HR director stepped onto the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the new Chief Executive Officer of Breyer and Chase Industries, Mr. Daniel Carter." Emily blinked. The name landed like a distant bell in her memory. Then the man stepped onto the stage, and her heart nearly stopped. It was him. Dry-cleaned suit. Clean-shaven. Confident, polished, every bit the powerful figure she'd never have associated with the man who had once sat in her living room, his daughter tucked beside him in blankets. Emily's breath caught in her throat. No one else seemed to recognize him, how could they? But his eyes scanned the room slowly, until they landed on her. For the briefest moment, he smiled. Then he turned to the crowd and began to speak. "When I accepted this role," Daniel said, "I wanted to understand what truly matters here. And a week ago, during a rainstorm, I got a reminder. Not in a boardroom, but in the living room of a stranger." The audience was silent. "I met someone who didn't ask for anything. She didn't know my name, or my title. But she showed kindness, unconditional and real. That's the kind of heart I want this company to reflect." Emily's eyes burned with tears, but she quickly blinked them away. No one around her knew he was talking about her. But he did. And somehow, that was enough. The office felt different that afternoon, buzzing with energy, curiosity, and whispers about the new CEO's speech. Emily sat at her desk, still trying to steady her hands. Had that really happened? Had he really been talking about her? Her inbox pinged. Subject: New appointment, Director of Employee Wellness from Daniel Carter, CEO. Her breath caught as she clicked. "Please join me in congratulating Emily Hart on her promotion to Director of Employee Wellness. Her commitment to humanity, humility, and heart are the values we wish to see reflected throughout this company. Change starts with people like her." Emily stared at the screen, stunned. The room spun for a second. She scrolled down again, rereading each word to be sure she wasn't dreaming. People from other departments were already emailing congratulations. Someone brought her a cupcake. A few co-workers looked confused. Wasn't she just in HR? No one really knew her. And yet, someone had seen her. Truly seen her. Just then, Daniel appeared at her doorway. "You all right?" he asked gently. Emily stood up, still holding the mouse like it anchored her to the earth. "Is this real?" Daniel smiled. "You reminded me what leadership really means. I don't want a company where people go unnoticed for doing the right thing. I want one where kindness is the culture." Tears welled in her eyes, and this time she didn't fight them. "I'm not a leader," she whispered. He shook his head. "That's where you're wrong. The night you opened your door to me and my daughter. That was leadership, quiet, brave, and without expecting anything in return. He paused. Now let's build a company where that kind of heart leads everything. And in that moment, Emily realized her quiet act of compassion hadn't just opened her door, it had opened a future she never imagined.